Hello, is anybody there? I'm just by myself. There's nobody else here. Try the, hey, how are you? Good to see you. How's everything?
It's fine, thank you.
Good to see you. I'm just starting our Google Hangout for people that are, try the link on my Facebook page and see if that works.
No, I don't have Facebook.
Well, just try the link that Sarah sent.
Estoy sintiendo mejor. So, pasé de mi preocupación.
Click the link from Sarah. Hangout is set up here. Click on that.
Bueno, lo hemos hecho dos veces.
Are you logged in
por
as you?
los últimos 2 días. Es más que abracé a mi esposa.
And did you, it says I'm going. This is just like the sign up to watch it link.
Yeah, it's a live broadcast.
No dile nada a mi esposa.
You did. What happens when
Yo la
you,
tengo bien entrenado con uno y está bien.
huh?
Let me.
Sneezing live on the internet.
It's okay, you're
It's
nice.
gonna be a new craze. Let's see.
Let me try to invite you.
Maybe she's allergic to the chocolate or the coffee.
No, it's something that's,
Chocolate? What chocolate?
Mold, milk.
it's gone. I ate it all. Emily, which
You ate
one's?
all the chocolate?
No, I didn't. I had 3 little bites.
Yeah, look, Shannon immediately qualifies. I didn't really eat it. It was somebody else who ate it.
I ate it.
I'm just trying to invite some other people. Do you have an avatar, Rick, on Google or just a?
I do not.
Okay.
Hi. Emily, it's feeling like you practically live here,
I
baby.
know, I'm loving it. Like my 3rd or 4th time in like 2 months.
I know. I'll be back here next weekend.
Have you met Eliana Lev, who's now a student at Barnard? She's in her 2nd year at Barnard.
Huh.
Her father, Nahum, is a rabbi in Santa Fe who Kitty and I become quite close to, and he's been here quite a bit, mostly in the summers, the last 3 years. Anyway, Eliana uses us as her city escape. She'll call us every once in a while and say, I gotta get out of here. And she comes for a night or 2 and just brings her books and hibernates and eats real food and then turns around and goes back again.
That's great. Yeah, I was excited to stay.
To escape a
Several
little bit.
nights, yeah.
Okay.
So how many classes are you taking right now?
Oh, good. We've got more viewers. People are coming on. Hello. I can't hear who's there, but one of you could send me a text to know that they're hearing us. I would just love it if somebody could look at it live to just make sure we're being heard.
Oh, for
No,
me?
it's just-
What are you on?
We're on the live channel, so if you can just click the link that's on the Facebook page. We have 4 viewers now, but I don't know who they are. Hello to whoever you are.
We're glad you're here.
Wherever your spots.
Yeah, somebody's here.
Maybe you're not
It's nothing
so
we're talking about.
I don't like to go to meetings where spies are okay.
Oh, good. So it's working. Great.
But it's delayed.
That's okay. I mean, it's.
So we're not gonna try and hear them.
We're not. I don't think we're going to hear them. I think it's a live broadcast. People may be able to text. I'm not sure how.
We'd have to tell them how.
Shannon, I'm assuming you are facilitating this meeting.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Because you and I have our right.
Yes.
I will take notes if you want.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, but actually, should I do translation? That'd probably be the best.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I switch it?
So let's. If those of you who can, if you can move in closer, just so I think we're the mic will pick you up, but I think if you can all move in a little bit.
You want us to pull the whole couch?
Yeah, pull the whole circle in closer would be great.
I'm trying to get an SDS inside the train, so prove it up.
Oh, so you two would still discuss?
Yeah, that's what makes sense.
We're almost ready to start for everybody who's out there.
You know, Shannon, if you sat like there,
Come on.
corner, I think you could get almost everything.
Oh, I'm just gonna sit the computer in.
Yeah, that's what I need, yeah. So who's in here? Let's see. Oh, there I am. I have to lean
Okay.
a long way.
There we go. Come on, okay. So we're having an in-person and a virtual meeting today. We have a Google Hangout, so we are broadcasting live over the internet right now. And that invitation went out to the accompaniment list. And it also went out on the PPF Facebook page and Twitter channel and on the Colombia Accompaniment Facebook page. So, and then there was a reminder link that was sent to everybody this morning. So people are just following the conversation that we're having here. Rick is going to be taking notes for those of you on the internet. Rick will be taking notes and we will post those to the accompaniment list. And the purpose of this conversation is to, many of us have served around this circle as accompaniers at different times. Once, Linda was just calling me, I don't know why. Many of us around this circle have served as accompaniers at different times. So we'd like to hear feedback from various people. We're at a pivot point in the life of the accompaniment program right now. Right now, we've been doing this for 10 years. And this past year, our current staff person who did the coordination of the program, Jess Hunter Bowman, needed to resign over the summer months. And so right now, we've been holding this.
Hi.
We've been having a group of volunteers who have been leading us for the last few months. And the IPC has not needed as many full-time accompaniers from us in the last few months as well. So we're at a little bit of a low time right now in terms of month-to-month accompaniers. We're looking at doing a delegation. We will be doing a delegation at the end of January 2015 and the first week of February to do an assessment in the first 10 years of the program with our partners in Colombia, visiting all 3 presbyteries in Colombia and listening together about what would be the steps that we would like to take next. Things in World Mission have also significantly shifted in the last year. Maria Arroyo, who was the full-time coordinator for Latin America and the Caribbean, who's been with this program this whole time, Maria left her position just before General Assembly. And there is a brand new coordinator who none of us have met yet in World Mission, and we hope to meet him at some point soon. We've invited him on our delegation. We've also had a changeover in World Mission personnel in Colombia in the last year and a half. Mimi Broadhurst and Richard Williams, who were the full-time accompaniers in Colombia, serving as a pastoral couple there, returned to the United States just under 2 years ago. And Richard is now serving as the coordinator for the Young Adult Volunteer Program in Louisville, and Mamie is pastoring a church in Louisville. About 8 months ago, Sarah Henkin, who had been with this program as a staff person and who had been coordinating many things with us. Sarah was based in Bolivia for the last 3 years as the South America coordinator. Sarah has now moved her offices to Barranquilla, and so Sarah is in Barranquilla full-time. Also, since August, the other addition on the World Mission side has been that the Young Adult Volunteer Program has their first group of Young Adult Volunteers, 5, Herman, in Colombia, serving in Urabá and in North Coast Presbyteries, 4. I'm sorry. And so those have also made some shifts in how we do our work, and we haven't yet had the opportunity with World Mission to really coordinate and have a conversation about how all these things work together between the accompaniment program and that. Also, alongside all of this is running the ongoing political and social situation in Colombia. The full effects of the U.S.-Colombia Free Trade Agreement are now being felt throughout Colombia and throughout the trade situation in Colombia. Also, the peace process is in full swing in Colombia, which has pros and cons to it, pluses and minuses. And I know Herman would like to bring us up to date a bit on that process and where that is interfacing with the work of the IPC these days. I also understand the IPC is reaching out to new communities and is working with some, hey Kitty, with some new communities on accompaniment, especially in the North Coast. And a few of the communities on the North Coast that the IPC has been closely monitoring and working with, some of those are directly figuring into the work of the peace talks for Colombia, especially the community in Catatumbo. I know that was part of the discussions in the Norwegian consultation over the last month. So that's a bit of the lay of the land of where we are at. The Peace Fellowship, as well as experiencing many changes and transitions, we've been expanding our work in the Peace Fellowship. We've brought on 5 new peace communities in the last 7, in the last 2 months. And the work of the Peace Fellowship, we're really taking a hard look at our domestic side of work. We've been doing a lot of international work, both in Israel, Palestine, and in Colombia. We've been doing a limited amount of domestic work around issues around gun violence. So what Peace Fellowship is trying to do now is really flatten its work in the United States and get involved with on-the-ground peace communities in the United States that are ecumenical in their focus, but also work alongside the 1001 New Worshiping Communities movement of the PCUSA. One of those is a 1001 community. And so we are experimenting with some new ways of doing our work in the Peace Fellowship as well. With Jess Hunter Bowman stepping down as a staff person over the summer, we decided to hold off for the rest of 2014 on another hire for the Peace Fellowship around a staff person because we are in this limbo state right now, but to wait until after the delegation in January when we will have a better sense of what it is we're actually looking for in potentially the next staff person to walk us down the next phase of the work. So I think that's all I need to say in terms of opening comments. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to Herman and Yasmin to bring us up to date on what's going on these days in Colombia. Herman, I'm going to ask you to come and sit here so that the microphone can pick you up. Or Yasmin?
Ladies first.
Oh, okay, so Yasmin. And
I think between us, I can project enough of a
Okay,
translation.
that's fine. And Yasmin has been serving the Presbyterian Peacemaking Program for the last month as one of our international peacemakers, itinerating around the United States, visiting congregations and communities here. So welcome to everyone who's online. We hope you're hearing everything. We will be sending out notes afterwards.
Shannon, I wonder if we might just also do introductions.
Yes, thank you. So why don't we do introductions, those who are here, and I'll try to pivot. There we go. Okay.
I'm Ann Legg. I was a accompanier in 2007 and 2010.
Okay.
Ted Collins, accompanier in 05, 06, 07, and this year.
Nancy Collins and I was an accompanier this year, February 14.
Great.
Herman from Colombia.
I'm Emily Brewer. I was an accompanier in May 2012.
Lisa Lamaro, I was accompanier this past April in Aruba, and I went to Cartagena, visited the church there for a week in May.
Louisa, can you just remind me of your last name again?
A couple years, and I've been a supporter ever since it began.
Okay.
And you've been to the North Coast, yeah.
Yeah.
And to the church there. Ann Barstow, with Rick, I founded the program in 2004. So the 10th anniversary, as you said, is coming up right away. And my heart is still in it.
Susan Hiley, past accompanier, summer of 2007, summer of 2008.
Great.
Yasmin Mosquera, Iglesia Presbiteriana de Colombia.
Rick Efford Chase, Director of Presbyterian Peace Fellowship.
Okay. Welcome to everybody online. We're sorry we are not hearing you right now, but you're hearing us. Okay, I'll turn it over to Yasmin.
Yeah, just take some notes of this. Okay, Ralusko? So could you repeat the question?
Current situation in Colombia, where she sees the program.
La situación de este momento en Colombia, ¿cómo lo ve el problema particularmente en tu contexto allí en Urabá? O sea, una reflexión, como lo que estamos tratando de hacer es crear como una visión más o menos de la situación en Colombia en este momento.
Bueno, antenoche compartíamos un poco sobre la situación en Urabá.
2 nights ago, we had a small meeting here at Stony Point Center in which we shared, Herman and I, a little bit about the current situation, the context in Colombia right now.
Y hablábamos un poco de que la violencia, aunque no ha desaparecido, pero está disminuyendo un poco.
And I began by describing that it's not appropriate to say that the violence has stopped or that it's disappeared, but it has, in fact, we believe, diminished considerably.
Pero la comunidad y la iglesia se está centrando en formar comunidades de paz.
And so the community, the church in our region and the larger church has been really trying to figure out what it means to create communities of peace in this new context.
Mencionábamos que al final del mes pasado hubo un peregrinaje de personas que fueron desplazadas por la violencia hacia otras ciudades y regresaron a Urabá.
So at the end of September, just a few weeks ago, we had a kind of remarkable moment where thousands of people kind of became voluntarily displaced for a short period of time and went to visit communities of displaced persons to be in solidarity with them, and then returned.
Rindiendo un homenaje a esas personas que fueron víctimas de la violencia.
And so, for instance, when the folks who had done that came back to Urabá, they came back kind of in a, trying to pay homage to all of those who had been displaced and lifting up their stories.
También se está haciendo como una constituyente para la paz, donde los universitarios y las comunidades se reúnen a mirar y hablar sobre cómo está nuestra sociedad.
And much of the work now is about trying to create a grassroots conversation about what it means to genuinely participate in a peace accord. While the peace accords themselves are taking place at the highest levels, the question is, how do we get a church conversation going or a university conversation going that also lifts up the need for a civilian, kind of a civil initiative attempt at peacemaking?
Y vemos la unidad que se está haciendo. Bueno, Colombia ahora está en proceso de negociación de paz con guerrilla y Estado colombiano.
So I think you all know that right now there are in fact talks going on where the government, the state is negotiating informal peace talks with the leaders of the guerrilla movement.
Pero entonces queremos también ver la participación y queremos ser parte de esa solución.
So the interesting question for us in civil society is, how do we participate in that process and not just sit back and wait for whatever takes place at those high levels to unfold?
Y como comunidad necesitamos estar unidos.
And we know that one of the most important pieces of this is that we be united as a community in that process.
Germán podría hablarnos ya un poco más del proceso como en Colombia.
So I'll leave it at that and ask Germán to speak more specifically about the actual process that's going on politically in Colombia.
Okay. Let's say that the right wing is in the ways to try to control the country, because what they need is to maintain the control that they traditionally has been accepting the necessity for peace, but agree with their convenience. Conveniencia, how does convenience?
Convenience.
Convenience, agree with their convenience. That means that they will like to sign, they say that they would like to sign peace with the different groups, but under their conditions. But for the other side, the president with the government right now is saying that it's not possible to put conditions for a process, for the process of peace that Colombia needs. So in that way, the talks in La Habana, who has 5 points, and already they have been talking about 3, do not guarantee for the people of Colombia that it's going to be peace. Also, the talks that they're gonna have with the ELN, and there is another group of guerrilla in El Catatumbo, for example. Those talks, people is very aware that do not guarantee peace for the people. Those are talks among people involved in war. And in the organizations inside Colombia, we have been saying that we need to enforce participation of the people in the process of peace, because the only possibility to really guarantee peace in the country is with the participation of the people in building those new opportunities. Like Jasmine just said. How now the right wing in Colombia is very strong. They have a lot of influence over the media, and the people of Colombia needs more education around what means to participate in building that peace. But different sectors are saying that peace in Colombia means also opportunities of education, means also jobs and fair salaries, because the salaries are very low and do not give opportunity to the people to develop things that they would like to develop. Health is another subject. Good health to everybody. Housing and other things. As a church, we make a statement who says that also what we need, what the people wants is to stop the war, because they are trying to have the talks in between the war, and of course the media likes to talk about the good things that the army is doing against the guerrilla, but when the guerrilla wins something, the victims of the guerrilla are out with the soldiers. So with that, they deal with the opinion of the people. But in this, we are, as a civil society, as a part of the civil society, organized, pushing the government to stop the war, to talk about peace, but everybody, the guns in silence. Now, guns in silence do not mean either peace. The problem or the challenge that we as a society in Colombia is going to be, what are we going to do with the people who are doubting that the only thing that they know is to shoot, no? To use guns and shoot. So what opportunities the people are going to develop and the government are going to develop for these people to really assurance the change in their lives? And that is something that everybody has to participate, Because we have been taught traditionally to appoint those who makes mistakes. So we have to avoid that. We have to think that these people who was in the guerrilla, or inclusive who was in the paramilitary, they need an opportunity to be part of the Colombian society. Otherwise, we're going to have this problem of war forever. So, what is the role of the church in this? And with this, I finish this presentation. Because there is a big hope. There's a big hope because for the first time in history, we have something to pressure the government. We don't vote in Colombia for Santos to win as a president. We vote for peace. So we are presenting and asking, demanding from the president to work around peace because the people vote for peace, not for him. And he knows that. He knows that, but that is the game that we have right now with the government. Agree with a kind of investigation that University of Los Andes did, and there is around the 70% of the people agree with peace processes and the peace for Colombia. But also we feel, well, we need to develop a pedagogy. For the common people, for the people who learns how to participate as a citizens in building citizens opportunities for the rest of the people. That might be more or less the situation that I think let me add something. My grandma used to say, we cannot sleep on the poison. And you have another say, I think the devil is on the lines.
In the details.
In the details. Yes. So we cannot be naive in this. We have to be very aware that the right wing has specialized people who study our conduct, our necessities, and they like to play with those necessities and give us the impression that they want to help us. And be very aware about it. So we have been asking the churches to pray for this cause, because it's, in some ways, it's only the Holy Spirit who is going to permit us to give enough intelligence to understand when we are coming into a trap. Trampa.
Una trampa.
Into a trap,
right?
And how to avoid the trap.
Tenemos que hacernos muy sabios para evitar la trampa. I wonder if, Herman, I want to ask one other question that maybe is to either one of you, which is, especially in this circle and the folks who are watching, people have a pretty good understanding about the internal politics of the IPC. We've all seen it at various moments, up close and personal. And I wonder if you could just talk a moment about the dynamics within the church around this conversation about how the church will choose to be a presence and participate in the peace process and create this kind of civil sector process. Do you feel that there's unity in the church, in the IPC at this point about that? And how is that agenda being articulated in your own assemblies? I just think in this circle in particular, people will understand the context and be sensitive to it. If you could talk a little bit about that. And estoy pidiendo si pueden hablar un poco sobre la política dentro
Start with an
de la
easy
iglesia en
question,
este momento. What's that?
No, just two things. Start with an easy question.
Dentro de la iglesia en este momento, ¿qué es la conversación de ustedes del IPC sobre el proceso de paz y cómo piensan como iglesia participar? Si hay una unidad en este momento o ven muy dividida la iglesia en este momento, ¿cómo ven la cosa?
The church is not everybody in the churches agree with,
No todos en la iglesia
with what to see the church involved in these issues. Because we have been taught to divide what is spiritual for the church and what is the world for the society. So everything that means everything. I mean, when we talk about the necessity to be with the civil society, there is a lot of people who still think that we are talking about politics. The thing is that that has been changing a little because some of those members has been victims of the violence. So when they come to us and ask us why they are victims of the violence, we have the possibility to explain them why. And with that, they begin to come into the process. But it's very, very hard. We as a church, we know that we are not the saviors of the society, and we don't pretend to be. We need to join with others to work together. And that means other churches, and that means political parties. That means social organizations. That means unions. And with that, we are part of what we call national platforms. And from those national platforms is when we build the plans of action. And it's where we have seen that the people is getting organized to participate in building a real peace from justice to the country.
Gracias.
¿Tienes algo que decir más?
No, pues, de acuerdo con lo que dice Germán, sí, de acuerdo con lo que dice Germán, pues Urabá es una iglesia que ha sido conformada por, en su gran mayoría por personas desplazadas.
So in Urabá, we have a church that's made up largely of people who have been displaced by the violence.
Y pues siempre ha habido como ese temor y poco a poco nos hemos ido como metiendo un poco en la parte social.
And therefore, you know, we've really begun with the people who are fearful. They've been on the edge and they're not anxious to rock the boat when they get a little bit of stability. But little by little, what we're seeing is people are having a larger conversation about how they can themselves become involved as civil society in these broader questions.
Con pasos temerosos porque
With little timid steps.
a raíz de todo el conflicto y violencia.
For all of, for all the good reason that they've got about the violence that they've experienced and the displacement that they've experienced.
Entonces, no todos están comprometidos con esa paz y justicia social.
So as Germán says, not everyone's been, is of one mind about getting involved in this.
Poco a poco se van contagiando.
But I think it's a contagion that is spreading across the church.
Y necesitamos seguir trabajando
And many of us believe that's work that we need to continue to
para
try and do.
fortalecer ese trabajo.
to strengthen that work that more and more people are invested in being a part of. Thank you.
Other questions people have, things on your mind around the peace process? What? I don't know. Be fast at it. Updates on the situation in Colombia?
Otras preguntas?
Herman and Yasmin, if you could talk a little bit about how the YAVs are working right now and how it's working with Sarah being in Barranquilla. How is the process going these days with the world mission side of things and connections?
But maybe I have to say that the accompaniment program has been given a lot of strength, strength to the churches, to the displaced people, to the social organizations. The Presbyterian Church of Colombia has been winning a lot of respect from the civil organizations, civil and social organizations, inclusive from the government, because of the presence of accompaniers with us. It's not strange now for migration that an accompanier, when it goes into Colombia, says that he's going to Barranquilla or Apartado to be with the Presbyterian Church, and they already know that they are going to be accompaniers in Barranquilla or in Apartado. And we, in some way, we are a kind of obedient with the government when they say, remember that they cannot participate in manifestations of political issues. And then we found a way that the accompanies be aware about what is the situation. So for people in our churches, it has been very important to see you. And also it's a kind of manifestation of a good relationship in between both churches. The good relationship between both churches, but not because of the high people. It's grassroots people with grassroots people, which is very, very important. They see, they share, they do all kind of efforts when the companies has problems to understand the language. They try to adapt of the needs what the company has in the many limitations they have, because it's another world. And I would say that that is a very important point to bring the image of the image of the purpose of peace through both Presbyterian churches in the country of Colombia. And through that, and truly after that, we were very happy when the World Mission decides to support for Colombia the Young Adults Volunteers Program. Because that is going to give us a more long time the opportunity in a different way, because the kind of visa that these people has permit them to participate in all kinds of meetings, to participate, to speak out about what they think about justice and peace, to share in the governmental offices, or to share in the community organizations what they think, without the fear that the immigration is going to tell them that they are involved in political issues. The kind of visa they have is a religious visa. Is for a long term. For a long term. Now we have 4 persons in Colombia. 2 are in Urabá, and one of them is deep involved in helping the different projects of self-sustaining in Bajira, the fish projects in 40, and the project in Blanquicet, the panaderia, how to say panaderia? Bakery projects of it. And the idea is that these not continue to be projects. The idea that is that they became to be enterprises. But how to deal with the idea of fair trade in our own context, fair trade in our own context, as a way to also assurance the processes, assurance the process of justice and peace from the churches to the communities. The other experience, and that's very important. Well, that's true in Urabá. There is another person in Bogotá. She is participating with the church in different projects, especially for kids, helping the kids. Oh, I forgot to tell, the other one is working with the ladies in Urabá, reinforcing the work of women in Urabá. And the one in Bogotá is with children. And the one in Barranquilla has a special interest for the work that we are doing with the displaced people. What else do you want?
Está bien. I have a question from Dave Giffords, who texted me a question. He's watching on the live stream. Dave's question is that we hear and read of a much improved economy in Colombia. Is this the experience of the average Colombian or just the elite?
Bueno, la economía, como decíamos, los más ricos se hacen ricos y los pobres más pobres.
Well, you know, it's not uncommon in anywhere. What happens for us is the wealthy appear to be getting more and more wealthy, and the poor people appear to be staying pretty much where they are, getting poorer.
Y los seguros cubren siempre a los ricos. Hace 2 meses hubo un vendaval y viento fuerte.
Ah, sí.
Tumbó
Esa palabra que me confundió el otro.
tumbó cantidad de plataneras y bananeras.
Just 2 months ago, we had a huge storm that came through, and it wiped out huge amounts of agricultural production in the areas making bananas, cultivating bananas and things.
Y las grandes multinacionales aumentaron el precio de los insumos y materiales para cosechar los pequeños productores.
And so, in the wake of that, what we've seen is that the basic goods that the small farmers depend on, the costs are going through the roof.
Pero bajó el costo de la caja de plátano y de banano para ellos comprárselas con los pequeños productores.
But what they're willing to pay, what the multinational companies are willing to pay to small producers for like a case of bananas is actually less than it was before. So their costs are going up and their income is going down simultaneously.
Y las grandes multinacionales tienen aseguradas sus plantaciones.
You know, we know that the multinational corporations carry insurance for exactly these kinds of events.
Y sus trabajadores tuvieron que dejar las plantaciones porque no había nada que hacer.
So the workers lost their jobs in the wake of this huge storm that went through.
Y muchos están en sus casas sin pago, sentados esperando a ver qué hacen.
And now many of them are sitting there in their homes, no payment, waiting to figure out what they can do next.
There is a big discussion in the country right now around the peace processes, because the government is saying that we have to pay the price for the peace processes. So they're trying to invent new taxes for the peace. And of course, you probably have to see the reaction of everybody, including the rich people. Everybody is saying, no. You cannot use our decision to vote for peace as an excuse to raise up the taxes. So that is the big discussion at this moment in this country.
And es correcto, Germán, que la clase en el medio está cambiando mucho también?
La clase
The
del medio
middle class is
cada vez
also
es más
experiencing-
pobre también.
Right, the middle class is experiencing huge changes.
The middle class is getting poor.
La clase media está bajando recursos.
Todo el mundo, everybody is buying lottery.
Lotería. Okay, other questions from the group?
Otras preguntas.
I'd like to know who initiated the big event in September. How did that get off the ground? The one
¿Quién
that people-
inició ese evento que mencionó Yasmin, usted, de ese evento de gente desplazándose para visitar otros desplazados a fines de septiembre?
No recuerdo ahorita el nombre, pero digamos son varias comunidades porque se desplazó gente desde Bogotá, gente desde Barranquilla.
Y no gente de Pasto también, es la frontera con Ecuador.
Uh-huh.
Pero fueron organizaciones sociales.
So these were social organizations that a lot of the energy came from where you would expect some of the larger communities like Bogotá and ¿cómo se llama?
Pasto,
Pasto, which is a border area.
borderlands with Ecuador.
Thank you. But it's a civil society or a social organization initiative that was developed.
If I could look that up, could I search and
¿Se
find
puede
it?
encontrar algo de eso en el internet?
¿Hay un nombre oficial?
¿Bajo de qué nombre? Como,
Peregrinación por la paz.
Sí.
peregrination for peace, or like pilgrimage, peace pilgrimage.
Recuperación de memoria y peregrinación por la paz.
Recuperation of memory and peregrination or pilgrimage of peace.
Porque there is a big emphasis right now. Nunca jamás. How do you say that?
Never again.
Never again.
I wonder, Herman, if you in particular could reflect on the difference between the situation in 2004, what we meant by accompaniment when we started in 2004, and what we meant by accompaniment in 2009, 10, when we did the evaluation at 5 years together and agreed to keep working. That was when we expanded into Urabá, right? It was 5 years ago now. And what accompaniment looks like from your perspective, kind of how has the situation changed around accompaniment in particular 5 years after that? Si podrían reflexionar un poco sobre las diferencias entre lo que quería decir acompañar en 2004 y otra vez cuando hicimos la evaluación de 5 años en 2009 y empezamos a llegar a Urabá. Y ahora ya 5 años después, ¿qué quiere decir acompañarse en este momento?
En 2004,
En 2004.
human rights was flag of the guerrilla, and those was close to the guerrilla. So we became to be threat, and we was declared enemies of the state, enemies of the country.
Estuvo acusado de ser parte de la guerrilla, enemigos del Estado.
From the Santos government. ¿Cuándo comenzó Santos?
2010. 2010.
sí, from 2010, from 2010,
Empezando en 2010.
The government
El gobierno,
took the flag of human rights.
the flag, you mean lifted up the flag of human rights.
Human rights.
Empezando en 2010, el gobierno mismo empezó a hablar de la necesidad de proteger derechos.
So they begin to they begin to talk about the necessity to protect the human rights defenders.
De la necesidad de proteger a
But
los
that was because of
defensores
international pressure.
y derechos humanos. Pero eso fue bajo de una presión tremenda.
Because
Y también porque ellos queremos el TLC.
because of the FTAs, because of the
It was,
FTAs.
they did
Free trade
it,
agreement.
they did it as a PR thing,
Right.
so they could get the FTA through, and they hired a lobby firm on K Street in DC, one of the top US lobby firms, and they said, you gotta clean up your public image, start talking about being promoters of human rights as the government, and that you respect human rights defenders, and have less trade unionists getting killed, stop all of that for a couple of years so that it looks better, and then we can get it through Congress here in the United States.
Exactly.
Sorry, lo siento.
No, it's okay, that's right. It's a poison, you see. It's a poison that we cannot sleep on. Because today, inclusive the multinationals are talking about peace. They're talking about better salaries for the workers. They're talking about justice. They're talking about the good things that the country needs. But what is the real problem in behind of that?
The motive.
Behind of that.
Economic.
Money, just money. They don't care education for the people. They don't care good quality of life for the people. They don't care that. What they care is just to assurance their investments, to invest without risk of loss their investment. So that's part of the poison. Now, there is another discussion very interesting. Because during the government of Mr. Uribe, how do you say it? Impronunciable, ¿cómo es el nombre que le pusieron a él?
The unpronounceable name of Uribe?
¿Cuál fue el nombre? It was a debate. It was a debate between one of the, a debate where in the Senate. It was a debate in the Senate between Uribe and
Sedefka? No, it's,
well, one of the
no, el otro senador.
sí, another senator,
Ivan, no.
Ivan.
Andrade.
No, empezó con un C.
Cepeda.
No.
We're talking about the Colombian
Cepeda.
Senate.
Cepeda.
Es
Okay,
un
Iván
senador.
Cepeda. There was a.
Sí, en el último mes, sí. Last month.
Yeah, and it was, but the Senate put those, el impronunciable is, how do you say, it? Impronounceable?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Or unmentionable. I think it's more like
Unmentionable.
unmentionable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The president of the.
He who shall not be named.
Ivan,
The
the
president-
senator,
yeah,
other
the
senator got
president-
up and said
the
things that were
president-
unmentionable.
Oh,
Yeah.
he was willing to say out loud things that were not talked about.
Yes, he said incredible. This was a floor debate on the U.S. On the Senate floor in Colombia, like about a month ago, and Ivan
Iván Cepeda.
got up and said things about Uribe in Uribe's presence on the floor that up to that point had been unmentionable in Colombia. He basically called it all out and talked about the specifics of what happened. And it created a huge stir. I'm amazed he's still alive.
So what did he say?
He, Enrique,
There is on
YouTube, all over YouTube.
You can see on YouTube the whole.
It was
Because
long.
what's long?
He just basically went off and talked for hours
Yes.
on the Senate floor. It was,
with
Syllabus.
proofs of all the killings
Yeah,
and the involvement of Uribe in the situation of violence in Colombia. But at the same time, those accusations are in the court. And there is a big suit against Uribe from Cepeda.
Public records.
they're trying to take Uribe to court right now
Yes.
over all that happened during his
They
presidency.
are trying to
Like more
put
criminal.
Uribe in jail.
Good luck.
Well,
Como los ríos Mon en Guatemala.
the thing is that the vice president said, if you do something against Uribe, this country is going to be full of blood. It's not only a threat to a person, it's a threat from those who thinks that they can do whatever they want with the rest of the people
Control.
to control.
Well, it's a threat against the constitutional court officers. It's a threat against Cepeda. It's a threat against anyone who would be a part of those proceedings.
Full status quo.
Now, the question that I have is why I'm talking about that, what was your
What,
question?
yeah, good question. What were we talking about?
Yo,
Talked about
pregunta
what-
de la diferencia dentro de la situación en
Okay.
2004 hace este momento.
Okay, that's a big difference. So, in those days, we could not talk about it. Today, a lot of things are coming out, inclusive, there are generals in jail. But the right wing is trying to put a law that is going to protect those generals and put them out free. So, there's a big fight, you see, and we think that we have been talking, but we as a civil society, democratic civil society in Colombia cannot permit that the right wing continues doing whatever they think they can do with us.
¿Y piensas, Hernán, que parte de la diferencia en los últimos 10 años es la diferencia de la tecnología y que hay muchas personas que tienen más información y lo mismo cosa en otras partes del mundo, ¿no?
Look, the thing is, the other
Planning
thing
of
is technology.
technology.
The other thing is technology. Everybody is right now following technologically. You know, we have meetings. We have meetings where we not only turn off the cell phones, we took the batteries out because it's possible to hear a meeting or hear people without the phone on.
Well, we were doing that in 2008.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So the government, from Uribe especially, he did a lot of followers, what is it, taking
Wiretapping.
photos,
Yeah, spying.
spying.
Yeah.
And now there is a process of investigation about it. And the military is very deep involved in that. And people that is still are in the government from the right wing, very deep involved in that. It's one of the things that we are trying to say that Uribe was responsible of. The other thing that has been changed is Uribe makes an arrangement with the government of the United States to send the drugs and the paramilitary ships to over here, accused of being sending drugs to here.
So this is an issue that Holman, if any of you have seen the film Impunidad, el cine de Holman Morris, no? He did, an investigative journalist did a whole piece on this about 3 years ago. And Emily, were you at that showing in New York City? There's a couple of us that were at it. And anyway, it's a great piece because what it shows is that as there was a process that began in 2009, 2010, where a number of, through the peace process at that point, as the paramilitary demobilization was happening, that leaders there was trials that were happening, and they were supposed to, as part of the demobilization, in quotes, say what they did. I was at this village and I killed this many people in this manner on this day, and I was assisted by these people, and sort of just to lay it all out was part of the deal of demobilization. And victims would gather in churches and in other sort of public places where a lot of people could sit together.
When was this?
This was in 2009, 2010. And they would watch it over a live stream so that they could see, because there were so many people who were victimized by this one person. And just as it would get to the close point, and this film is amazing because it shows over and over again, just as the trial gets to that point of actual telling and saying, and this person ordered me to do it, who was connected to this person, and to show the chain of command, all of a sudden the US DEA or the US or the FBI would swoop in, or the State Department, the US, and say, I'm so sorry, we need this person on extradition charges to face trial in the United States. A grand jury has been impounded in the United States to deal with drug charges on this person for drug running, and to go back to the old drug story in Colombia. And so then that person would just be whisked out of Colombia on a private jet, and he's sitting in some jail cell here in the United States, but isn't required, now that they're in the United States, to continue and finish up their testimony and tell everything. And so there was this pattern at the end of Uribe's presidency in 2009, going into 2010, in the early part of Santos's presidency, when the presidency switched over in August of 2010, this process. And so very few of the people have actually told all, because the idea is that it probably implicates all the way up the chain of command to Uribe or to his highest advisors. And the United States, of course, was very involved with all of this, and with Uribe, and we're implicated by design in many of these issues, or our brigades are. And it was in 2010 that FOR, so many of you remember this, it was at that same time in 2010 that the Fellowship of Reconciliation, John Lindsay Poland, who many of us know, authored that great report that showed the very specific ways the Leahy Amendment in the United States was being violated, and that U.S. aid was going to brigades in Colombia that had these specific violations. And that exact stuff is just continuing on today. But the U.S. State Department certifies Colombia every year, just gives it that blanket. It's almost the same story, just keeps repeating itself. But the issue of extradition and the way the U.S. has sort of inserted itself into the middle of the process has been pretty incredible. So.
But our concern right now is that some of these guys, they are finishing their time here in the United States, and probably they're going back to Colombia. So, and the concern is, are they going to be free? That means that they are not anymore guilty of what they did? No. There are lawyers looking to put them in jail, and now Josh in Colombia, agree with the Colombian laws for the killings and for the things that they did in Colombia.
¿Y tú piensas que ellos van a regresar de verdad o van a ir a otro país? No.
Estos son los días de las brujas, hay que averiguarle la These are the witches days, no? We have to ask them.
So, es octubre aquí también. Other questions for Germán? Yasmin, questions for Yasmin? Bueno, so what I would like to turn to at this point is some conversations specifically about the work that all of us around this circle have been engaged in the accompaniment program. All of us have had deep experience in Colombia. We've seen many of these things with our own eyes. We've gotten this update from Germán. But in our second hour, what I would really like, and if we need to take a 5-minute, does people need a 5-minute stretch break? Use the bathroom, take a little stretch break. Why don't we do that first?
Why don't you tell us what we're going to say, though?
We're going to talk about the program and sort of where where you could see what your dreams would be for the next 10 years, what you would like to see it become, what you have seen as some places where we could be doing work in a more efficient way, or where you would like to see our engagement in the United States happen in new ways. We've had some conversations about the idea of some reverse accompaniment, where like the International Peacemaking Program with the peacemaking program in Louisville, where Colombians would come here and perhaps accompany some of our communities as we seek to do peace, or as we seek to deepen that conversation in our local church communities in the United States. So I'd like to talk about that larger picture of issues for us here in the United States, get your feedback on those things. And then in about a couple weeks' time, Emily and I will be putting out a longer set of very specific questions for all of you about the accompaniment program that we will use as part of the data that we will bring for the conversation in January. Yeah, and I think, Lisa, when you served, you were coming back right as the switchover was happening. We do have a follow-up survey for accompaniers. We can certainly send that to you. But I think when you were coming back was right as we were having to switch over from Jess stepping down and everything. So that might have been just a detail that got missed at the end of your time. I can certainly send that to you. So for those of you online, we're just hang out with us, but we're going to take a 5-minute stretch break here. So you could take one at home, and then we'll convene back in 5 minutes. But I'm going to leave the live stream open. In live stream, I'll text him and ask him.
Exacto. ¿Y viene esta noche o no?
Sí.
Es muy cara los vuelos
Sí.
en los Estados Unidos.
Sí, el único vuelo barato fue el mío. ¿Ah? ¿O no fue tan barato tampoco?
Barato para este vuelo.
Para este vuelo. Ya saben la teoría de
¿Qué teoría? Oh, ya. Es que llegó temprano él, ¿verdad? Como 2 días aquí. Entonces yo le puse a trabajar en el campo.
Tú me di eso, nuevo jardinero.
Ajá. Entonces yo dije, bueno, menos barato comprar boletos para él que pagar a alguien de Rock Hotel.
Eso es verdad.
Yo creo que tu conciencia es la que te tiene enfermo.
Puede ser.
Yes.
There's a lot.
Yeah, you go to the restroom, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I mean, there's been portions of it, but not much. There's been a little bit of it, but not enough.
They should eat fried Gemma's.
Well, Rumsfeld, there are a few countries in Europe that have active warrants out for some of the arrest of some of them. So there are certain countries they can't travel to.
Y el tiempo hay que...
Right.
5 minutos.
¿Y con los niños tomé?
Oh.
Sí.
Thank you.
Pienso es bueno para
This computer is a mess.
las personas y tener para, para ella, uno, y esto para, este es amigo en la calle.
Sí.
Para
Pienso
recordar.
es
importante. Pienso es importante para, sí.
Stop yawning. I need coffee. I need to have some coffee.
I'll get you some. Do you take sugar in it?
Oh, is there coffee here?
Yes.
Is there milk here?
No.
Oh.
Soda? lejos?
No, I'm fine then.
No coffee mate, no milk.
Y por
That's too bad. Oh,
Well,
well.
the coffee pot's broken. If I had to sit with a knife underneath it.
We should have had some food over here. I don't know.
Well, we're gonna have a banquet or whatever you call it.
I haven't had lunch
Ah.
because we were running late and we just drove straight down here from home. So I haven't had anything for lunch or anything since like 9:30 this morning. No, thank you. Oh, he has been watching a bit.
Oh,
Yeah, I would really like to. I don't know if maybe one will be bringing me. I don't know how. He took Sophia to go get her nails done.
I hope you're not getting a cold.
Me? Oh, no, it's the allergies. Ever since the leaves started falling this past week, my allergies have gone up. So, but I've had a pretty, well, I'm on live stream, I won't talk about it.
Right.
Good plan.
It's been a long week. I just started a new call in end of January. I'm now serving as a presbytery exec. So I've had to,
A lot of new duties.
yeah, a lot of new stuff and some are unsavory. Or just sad. But overall, I'm really enjoying it. So I wouldn't say this has been an enjoyable week.
Just two shell pads.
It's not very often you have a disciplinary case finish and have to have charges read on the floor.
Yeah.
It's pretty unsavory.
Our church has been challenged with the division of the authoritative something or other.
Authoritative interpretation.
Yes, we lost 31 members in
Really?
2 weeks.
What criteria is that?
Arkansas.
Lisa just says he wishes he could be seeing your pictures right now.
Oh,
He's texting me.
show him. Oh, he saw us looking.
Oh yeah, go show them to him
Hold
on the.
up to the TV, to the computer.
Photos, I just finally got some developed because I was photo editing them. I only have some for the Corepa church for now, and I have so many others. Where is he? Solamente, I'm telling Jess, okay. I only have them for the Corepa congregation now.
But your arm is in the way. Can you help?
I don't know, does it, can they see it? If I can see it on the screen, right? That. I really wanted them to have copies for their memories, so they would remember the time and know that our support is still with them. So okay, one for me, one for her. All right.
It's finally able to. Rick started as just a Word doc. I switched over to a Google Doc.
So for them to keep and remember
Okay.
our time together. And then this, I made copies for each of the girls in it. We're having our Tickle Fest. And on the hammock, this is hamming it up with Sandy. No, Sandy, I forget her name. That was our mode of transportation. Here's Paul. And then, one of many services, Paul and Carlos, Apolinar's son.
Yes.
Those are great. So.
Oh, thanks. And Danielsa, Apolinar's wife. We really hit it off so well.
Okay.
We laughed so much. Okay.
Oh, yeah?
Apolinar's sister in the middle there in the red.
Y mañana tú regresas, ¿sí?
Sí, mañana viajo a Bogotá
Ajá.
por Atlanta.
Ladies or me ladies? I get them mixed up.
A pasar la noche en
The
Bogotá.
two of them that lived in his house, his daughter,
Es que no sé.
Corepa.
No sé.
Porque llego a las como a las
Hold on,
11 o
Danielle's
de la noche.
she's so funny.
Y pues no sé si quedarme más bien en el aeropuerto y porque
She
si
and
no
I
vuelo a
laughed
primera
so
hora.
much.
¿A qué hora?
Tengo que
Okay,
estar a
Paul
las
and R,
6.
showing the beginnings of the long process of making adults coconut rice.
Entonces no sé. Puedo llamar a alguien para que me
Helena and her son in
Que
Apartado.
viven cerca. Luis San Miguel. ¿Es posible que un miembro de su
Maria,
equipo esté la
her grandson,
pueda
Miguel,
a
I think.
llamar en la noche por Skype
Ujú.
a alguien a ver
Helena
Sí,
and I,
mejor.
me.
Para dormir por unas horas. Sí.
I don't really usually print stuff with myself in them, but
Eso es
because of
una
our
información muy
relationship, I wanted them
rápida.
to remember it because I will always care and have my support. They have my support. There's the kids there. I have so many more, but I just wanted to.
Okay, we're gonna start again.
Oh, me and Stephanie gave me some artwork. And then I
Jess is on the
have
live
3 of
stream. I'm
these.
texting him, but he's looking at pictures.
He wanted to see the pictures. I have 3 of these for each, one for each of the girls, and they were there every day. They came around to the apartment and knocked on the door every time we were there. It's sort of like, can you come out and play? Kind of a thing. It was so cute.
And this will all be recorded for posterity.
Oh, great. All right, that's it. That's just what I could bring that I got to the lab
No,
and
that's
got edited for.
Thank you.
For each.
I
Yes, me to
moved over
take
to a
back.
Google Doc
Oh, okay.
for this.
Oh,
Yeah.
just you.
Good.
No
So,
tiene azúcar.
you.
Sin azúcar.
Oh, you just processed.
one took Sophia to the nails
¿Descansaste 5
salon.
minutos?
Where?
The nail salon.
Perfect.
Is you nice? Yeah. That's just what needs to happen right now.
When we finish here, can you come over and just take a look at the room, kind of we'll agree together
Yep.
some setup stuff?
That'll
And
be
I've got a team of 4 who are gonna help do all the transformation. in there.
Yeah, I'll just go straight over with you. If you don't mind,
That's fine.
we'll go over with you. I don't know where
Yeah,
Juan
I have the van here. I brought the
is. I don't
van.
know where Juan is right now. He'll be late, I guarantee you, so I might as well go over there where I can hang out.
I did get
Oh,
the.
Jess says thank you. Lisa, Jess says thank you.
Herman, Dan.
So,
Rob
Many more to
Mercante is
come.
coming.
I will mail.
Rob,
I
tell me
will
his
mail.
last name.
As I,
Marcante.
Mercante,
as I get.
Mercante.
yeah.
MER.
Maybe that's better
CANT.
than, I thought we
No
were
wonder I
getting
couldn't get it when you
it.
were trying to tell me on the speakerphone the other night. I could not
I'm
figure it
sorry.
out.
I paid for his extra ticket.
Great. We'll just put his name on the list. I picked up a couple of tickets for Norman and Laura Gutwald.
Oh, good,
They're
okay.
gonna come. Yes,
Good. I figured he would
I'm
be.
pretty sure. Kitty is gonna come for the program, but not for the day.
Okay, I talked to Chris.
Um,
We'll just go over.
We'll try to start a little early. Yeah, I on purpose did not write any times because I didn't want to be held.
Yeah, and Juan has the certificate framed.
I saw it, I sent a picture, it was fabulous.
It's
And I got Herman's frame today. I did a really simple frame.
My printer,
That's amazing.
it was amazing. And,
Entregar.
I don't know, things like this, PC board,
I love that. I do it
Yeah.
So we can quit close to 4.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Because I want to try to get everything set up and then at 5:30 I want to run to the house and change clothes.
Yeah, I'll get changed, all of that.
Yes, it is, but I'm not gonna wear a pair of dirty jeans either. It's a step up from jeans, but a step down from gala.
Oh, no, I brought it to the nice.
Ask Tom Mike.
Decided for this point forward, I have to look more official than I usually do.
Okay, I took
Okay.
a 5-minute nap, I'm ready to go.
Okay, who are we missing? Lisa,
She's on her way.
okay. Okay, so we're gonna talk for about another, it's 3:20, so we're gonna go for about another half hour, and then some of us need to head over to Stony Point to get organized for this evening. So many of us around here are, well, everybody here is a returned accompanier, but many of us have been more than once. We have some really experienced returned accompaniers with us. So what we would like to hear is, as you sit back and reflect on your time as an accompanier, what do you see as you look into the future for the accompanier program? What do you see as our new ways forward, or as things that we could be doing into the future now that the landscape is shifting and changing? We may not need to have every month accompaniment in Colombia. We were very concerned at the beginning that we covered every single month. That's not as much of an issue, but it is very important that we continue to be seen and continue to be a presence. So we'd like to hear some of your creative thoughts and ideas about some of that. Hello, everybody. So, Anne, yes.
I liked so much what I heard just before we took the break.
Yes.
About thinking about having some accompaniers come up here.
Yes.
I want to speak just for one moment about that and then go back to Colombia in my thoughts. I like the idea of reciprocity very much. I like very much the idea of Colombians coming here and having the kinds of experience of a different setting that we have had so remarkably in Colombia. Just want to say that. But back to Colombia itself, as I look back over the program, it seems to me that one of the real turning points was when we were allowed to start going to Urubá. We had asked to go to Urubá, and for good reasons. They didn't pick up on that. But finally, when they did, it seems to me that the experiences in Urubá have been so very rich that they have made almost like a whole second stage of the program. So I want to ask this question. What about other parts of Colombia where the IPC has churches? Is there any possibility of using some of us, of assigning accompaniers to any kinds of projects or areas elsewhere? I just want to throw that in. It's, what can I say? The wider the experience that we're offered, the deeper I think we go.
Are young adult volunteers already going?
They began in August. They're there. They're on the ground. They're in
And how
Colombia.
long will they be there?
1 year.
And how many of them is it?
4. 2 in Urubá, 1 in Barranquilla, 1 in Bogotá. ¿De dónde eres, Germán? Los Yavs. En los Estados Unidos, ¿de dónde eres?
Yes.
They're from all over.
Yeah.
They're all from the US, but they're from all over.
And when you talk about where other places to be, do you mean extending our reach in the communities, in the presbyteries where we have relationships? Do you mean working in Bogotá? Do you mean other parts of the country where the IPC maybe isn't even working?
I was thinking about starting to work in other parts of the country where the IPC already works.
Okay, so
Although I like your idea about in the very communities where we are finding new ways.
So extending our reach within those presbyteries that the IPC already has, or staying longer term in communities where the IPC does short-term accompaniment themselves, but to be in those communities, find ways to be there more long-term.
Right. That's entirely a matter up to the IPC. I'm just speaking up and saying from the point of view of the accompaniers.
Right.
I do think that the broader the opportunities, the better it's been for us.
Herman, what do you?
I think it's open, the possibility is open. The only thing that we want to be aware is that once the accompanier is in Colombia, he is not the only one accompanier. We are both accompanying one another.
Yeah.
So we want assurance that the people of other churches are going to feel the same thing. Because I can't remember right now, but there are, it used to be times when we want an accompany to go to a certain place, but in the middle of going to, we decided to not go because it was too risky for them. And we don't want to give papaya.
We don't want to give
We
opportunity.
don't want to give papaya.
Herman's way of saying, we don't want to give opportunity or be reckless, sort of.
Yes.
By getting somebody from the US hurt.
From the government of the United States to say, oh, we told them to not go to that place.
Right.
And we are not responsible for that. No, we feel responsible. So it's only the only thing, but it's something.
It's a capacity issue.
Yes. For example, we do trust completely in Mennonite Church. In that way.
Yeah.
Also with the Lutherans. With the Lutherans. And I know, I agree with the last experience, if we ask people from Pentecostal churches to participate in a program like this with the responsibility we feel we have to have in these, they will do it. Well, very well. And there is another exception. We cannot say the whole Roman Catholic Church, but we have to remember the Father, Padre, he's in Cartagena right now. Rafael, thank you. Father Rafael, oh yes. Father Rafael is an exception. And then also in Cincelejo, there is another Father, Juan, from the los Franciscans. Oh, they have a wonderful work among farmers in displaced people and people who lives in poor areas. So that might be possibilities to really share that.
Thank you. Shannon, sitting here listening to the conversation, I'm wondering if we need maybe to redefine our goal and think what our goal is in going to Colombia. It may have changed a bit from the original goal of the accompaniment.
I think that's very true. Yeah.
So maybe we need to have some kind of a way to define what we want to accomplish. You're just
Right. And that's what I think we're very interested in as we have just an opening conversation today, and then as we do these, the idea that Emily and I and the team working on it right now is that we're going to send out a pretty wide-ranging questionnaire electronically, some with ABC questions and some with narrative for people, and then we are also going to do a few focus calls, conference calls or Google Hangout calls before January to have a conversation. And then that would be work that we would bring, and that I really hope that as we come out of delegation, we will have that better defined goal for the next season of our time together. I think that's very important.
Good. The second part of my question is there a door open maybe for us to have more reciprocity and have more people from Colombia coming up and sharing with us what their experience has been? I've always, every time I've been to Colombia, I've been impressed with the fact that the people I meet just everywhere are much more involved with their government and much more aware of what's going on than they are in this country. And I think that may be something we can learn. And there are other things too, but that one is the primary one that comes to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So along those lines, there are a couple of things that I've been thinking about a lot, and I've been looking forward to an opportunity to say them out loud and begin to kind of record them as a part of our conversation. One is that for me, Herman, in 2010, when we did the last, or was it 2009, whenever that was, when we
2010.
What was clear to me, one shift that was clear that we haven't mentioned, is that from 2004 to 2010, the language we used was that we were sending accompaniers to protect and accompany those of you who were leaders in the church.
Yes.
In 2010, I felt like you changed the conversation and said, no, we are going to be accompanying displaced peoples and people who are experiencing abuse, and we want you to accompany us as we accompany them. It was a very interesting kind of sleight of hand, or a change that you created in that moment. And so I keep trying to figure out, what does that same change look like in a post-peace accord Colombia? What is the next work of the church in trying to build a grassroots civil society answer that we're supposed to be supporting? So that takes me to my second point. Primero que noté que en 2009, cuando evaluamos el programa 2010, hicimos un cambio donde antes habíamos hablado de acompañar a los líderes de la iglesia. Después de 2010 fue cómo vamos a acompañar la iglesia en su ministerio de acompañar a la gente desplazada. Fue otra forma de verlo. Y me pregunto cómo lo vamos a hacer ahora. ¿Qué quiere decir acompañar en un momento post-acuerdo de paz? So that brings me to my history, which is Central American, right? And my judgment is that we are seeing right now, 20 years after the peace accords were signed in Guatemala and El Salvador, we are seeing the failure of the movement to do exactly what you've been talking about. If the church movement and the civil society movement in El Salvador and Guatemala had been successful in 1994 to 2000, in creating a participatory civil society, then we wouldn't today have an economy that is in the tank, that there's no economy to speak of, no jobs, no future, and there are bandas, there are gangs, there's gang activity at such high levels that it's actually creating a new wave of child immigration to the United States right now, 20 years later. That's a direct result of the fact that we never did our work in terms of actually making the peace process participatory and make it take place. So it interests me to try and find out who in the church movements in Guatemala and El Salvador, and maybe Nicaragua and Honduras too, who should be in this conversation with the Church of Colombia and civil society, you know, and do we have some role in bringing, maybe part of our role is bringing some of those people to the table to talk about how we create a different kind of post-peace accord movement in Colombia today. So that's one part, right? One half is, what does accompaniment look like to create a genuinely participatory movement? And I'm very excited about that conversation. And the other half of the conversation is the one that Shannon was touching on, which is we have higher and higher levels of violence every day in our country, higher levels of Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, racism. You know, look at what's going on in Ferguson right now, right? And what would it look like to ask, perhaps not even just the church in Colombia, but starting with the church in Colombia, to accompany our communities in the midst of our violence. Not so much to come and say, we're going to tell you about Colombia, as to come and just say, we're going to be with you in the midst of you responding to your own situation of violence here. So both of those things interest me over the next few months to talk about together. Thank you.
And I think that the secondary piece to that question for me also is, if we engaged in ways of doing perhaps reverse accompaniment, or if we created opportunities even in our own country for people in communities where violence is maybe not experienced at such a deep level to go and be in a place like a Ferguson, or an inner city environment or a rural environment where there is great violence that's happening, how could we use those experiences the way that they have been used the last 10 years to deepen the conversation and the commitment around peacemaking and around nonviolence in congregational communities, local churches? Because I think, it's what we've noticed that's happening in the United States, and I hear a little bit of that in your comments, Herman and Yasmin's, is that most of our congregations are just not engaged in high-level conversations about what does it mean to be disciples of Jesus Christ? What does it mean to be Christian? What does it mean to be peacemakers in the context in which we find ourselves, or the big context, the United States, and then whatever our local context might be. What does that actually mean for us? And we're not, and I think this is a real reason why we're seeing such decline in our church communities in the United States, is that they don't actually connect with what's going on in people's lives. Or the world. And if they actually did, and it was a place where people could really wrestle with the big questions and figure out how to make their lives have meaning to their lives as disciples, then I think we would be really accessing that deep hunger that is inside of people and creating a space for them for real growth. I know in my life, as I look back at what was it that engaged me about church life so much that I wanted to go into ministry, was that I grew up in a community like that was engaged in those questions and had us out on the streets and had us working on those issues on all sorts of different fronts and didn't shy away from those big questions. And so, but many church communities these days in the United States are so resistant to those conversations. And how do we support leaders who are trying to raise those questions and trying to lead those questions in congregational life, but also those who are trying to do real deep community work, and lifting them up and telling their stories, but also being with them in some new ways. I think the YAV program is the one spot where that actually happens a bit with some more intentionality within the United States. Because there are pockets in the Presbyterian Church and where this is really happening at a deep level, but they're totally unknown to the rest of us, or even within their own local presbytery. They don't even know what others are doing, which would be, very interesting. So that's something that I'm very interested in that conversation, and how do we become communities that are very committed, not just to nonviolence as a tactic or as some sort of a philosophical thought in our churches in the United States, but how do we really live that and think about our lives as discipleship and about going really deep, but also wide. So that image, Anne, you were using. Those of us who have come back as accompaniers have seen that happen in the church in Colombia, and we come back with our stories, but how do we then mobilize and create that in our local context? It's a big question.
I'm laughing because
we've talked about this.
It comes to common issues as a church.
Right. These are common issues?
What means to be? Because what means to be followers of Jesus today more than a Christian? Because Christianity is always understood for the society as the institutional apparatus, and there is a lot of people who doesn't want to be anything about Christianity, doesn't know anything about Christianity. But there is people who wants to know about Jesus. And that's something that we have to confront today. And in our with some of the leaders, and I was laughing because I was remembering that many times we have some sharing some concerns about the mission of the church around a bottle of wine or a bottle of whiskey or a bottle of rum or something like that, or beer. And what means, not only what means to be a follower of Jesus today, is what we are going to create or to reinforce, to really assume the commitment that we have with Jesus. Is the church or is communities of faith?
La iglesia es la institución o es comunidad de fe.
What are we really defending in the name of faith?
En el nombre de nuestra fe.
The institution
La institución misma
or the grace of God?
o la gracia de Dios.
We don't have answers.
No tenemos respuestas.
So in that way, we are also making questions around the accompaniment program.
Tenemos las mismas preguntas sobre acompañamiento.
In which way we can, we can help. We can help our brothers and sisters in the Presbyterian Church of the United States from the experience that we are having here.
De los Estados Unidos.
And in which way,
Experiencia que hemos tenido nosotros.
agree with the development of the spirit of faith in the United States, the people who are coming from the United States are going to be able to make us grow up in faith in this context.
Y cómo nos va a ayudar.
Because we are learning to not separate faith of better life. For example, I was in Chigoró, donde estaba en Arrino. In Chigoró with a meeting, a very interesting meeting with women there. They have been receiving a lot of training from el SENA. SENA es Servicio Nacional de Aprendizaje. It's a technological
Training program.
Yeah, training program. And they teach many useful things for anybody who wants them. And I asked them, what are you going to do with that? And they say, I don't know. We don't know. And I told them, we are probably in front of that story of Jesus when he gave gifts to, or somebody gave a Lord or whatever, he gave a gift. And one put the gift under something, and the others multiply. What is our role in terms of that? How are we understanding what is the gifts that God has given to us? That has to be sometimes with the mentality of a lot of us in South America, in everywhere. Some people feel that they are so spiritual, they don't need anymore. They don't need anymore. But it's the same thing there. There is people who think that they are so poor that they cannot do anything. The only thing that they can do is to ask God to bless them. For me, it's the same thing. There is people who are so spiritual that they don't need to do anything because they already assurance the kingdom of God. They already say it. But there is people who are so poor that they think that they cannot do anything because they are already poor. And that is what God wants from them. In which ways can we have an encounter or something like that? That we came back to feel that as human beings, we was created by God, and we are able to share gifts that God has been given to us. Peace is a result of justice. But what means justice in certain contexts. In the United States, in different places, justice means different things. In Colombia, it's the same. So, one of the richest things that I think the accompaniment program has is that we have been learning both. We have been learning a lot. It's not only you who has been learning from us. We have been learning that you're people. You are not the rich gringos. You are not the power gringos. You are not the gringos. Because the story that I like to tell the accompaniers, Alice Winters was stopped by the guerrilla, and immediately she opens her mouth, the guerrilla knew that she was a gringa, they said. And she says, no, I'm not a gringa. The gringa has a lot of money. I don't have a lot of money. The gringos are not missionaries. I am a missionary. The gringos do not teach theology. I am teaching theology. The gringos do not feel the necessities of the poor people. They use the poor people for their own needs. So I came for another reason, but I feel proud of being part of the people of the United States of America. And what the guerrilla told her? Oh, you are one of ours, come on. Never again she had a problem. And I like that story.
That's the best story.
I like that story because it's a way that we need to feel that you are living in the United States, you speak a different language, you probably have different customs. We in Colombia, the same thing, but it was the same. How to find our common things as a followers of Jesus, as accompaniers, how to accompany one another, how to find ways to look for ways to look for the resources we need to assurance experiences like this, because all of us are in crisis, and in crisis, the real meaning of crisis doesn't mean disorder, means an opportunity to change. And I would like to mean that. So that is what we're thinking, still thinking, what is going to be the next step for the accompanying program? The base, you are our brothers and sisters in Christ. That's the base. How can we share with one another? The possibilities for us to come here, at this moment are very hard. But there are ways. We have to use those ways, inclusive the technology ways. We can use. We have to think how to better reinforce the bridges of relationship between you and us. I would like to ask your experience in Colombia. What has to be with your life today?
What's the question?
What the experience that you had in Colombia, what has to be with your life today?
How it affected?
Yes. Is it question? Don't answer me. Yes, it's a personal question.
I'd love to hear an answer.
You'd like to hear their answers? Okay.
For me, it was learning to listen better and to listen with my heart, not with my intellect. I'm much better at interfacing with people because there I wasn't supposed to share how we do it in the United States. I needed to be still and listen. And that was the hardest thing in the world for me. Just awful. But it was a breakthrough for me to connect. And I'm more able to do that now. And I don't know if it's a US thing or it's my own personality, but I always wanted, if I became aware of a problem, I wanted to jump right to action. I wanted to fix it. If I didn't like the feeling I was feeling, if I didn't like what was happening to some poor little thing, I wanted to go right to action. And in Colombia, I realized that there's one more A, and that is acceptance. That I needed to sit on acceptance for a while and give my God time to speak with me. And that the action was not mine to do always. It was often somebody else's. I learned to ask, what's the problem? Whose problem is it? And where does the solution lie? And I always start by including God in the process.
Who else?
Just for me, it just made me feel so when people think I joke around and laugh a lot, but I'm actually a fairly serious person, and it made me more serious. And I have not been able
I thought you were trying to kneel.
to let go of the problems. I do want to help solve them. I have not been able to let go. I feel responsibility now to help figure out what the changes could be, not should be, but could be. You know, what is my role? I don't think I'll ever be able to. So I want to. There's so much our society can learn from observing any other society. And I just was privileged to observe. I think we in our country have lost so much because of our privilege. And I witnessed so much community there that I see lacking now. I saw there the church being the center of community to the point where it was like every congregation was an immediate family, not even extended. It was like when they were together, they were brothers and sisters. They are brothers and sisters. And when families get together in the United States, I see so much more judgment and criticism, and social standing, and I didn't see that. That's where we do have a lot to learn. I think we've come too far from when we were like that here. I also see strategies that we have here that I wanted so badly to suggest while I was there. I remember visiting a home where the displacement had been, the violence they had experienced had been so severe, the father figure was really almost platonic. And they had this little bit of land in the back, and it was just, it had trash and weeds in it. And then I went to the same exact situation with another congregant, and they had turned it into their own little casino. They had their own little farm. And in this small area in the back, this woman had built just this wooden, you could see through their walls, you could see the light through the walls, and yet she had chickens in this cage and a pig over here and tomatoes, and on top of that, she had recreated the farm she had lost in this small space. It's frustrating. And I thought, if they could get together and help each other, one person made jewelry, another person did something else, but it was so insular. If they could get together and help each other, you can help show this person how he can grow food that they could eat. And this person can help this one learn to create something. And if they could set up some sort of co-op and sell things in the stores, because they all have, so many have little signs out, bulks and bags of ice, and things like that. There's so much more they could do with sharing. And one thing I did find that I was surprised by is in our churches here, so much of our call is to increase the size of the congregation, to go out, bring in new members. And I didn't see that anywhere I was, at least where I was and when I was there. They stayed insular. When the neighbor kids came over, the dog, neighbor's dog or cats came over, they tolerated it wasn't where they would, I didn't see people trying to bring in new members. In a way, almost they closed the doors when the service began. It's like they wanted it to stay them. And I understand that because they're hurting and their family and there's competition out there in churches and ways of thinking. But I thought how much they could benefit by sharing Jesus' love, setting that example, and maybe bringing in some people, helping to be a little more friendliness.
Just want to do one more comment or statement. It's 4:00. We need to wrap up. Ann and Tom have already headed back for getting ready. But anything else we want to share? And we can keep talking tonight, of course, and we'll have more opportunities over the next 2 months to do some evaluation conversations for all of us. So anything else anyone would like to share?
I'd like to thank Herman and La Señora for being here with us. And I think my feeling is that we need to do, if we can, whatever you all feel will be the best for you. And it really doesn't have anything to do with what we think ought to be done, but more about how can we help the Presbyterian Church in Colombia, if you want us to help, and in what way, and if we can do that. So, but Herman, I don't know how you put up with all of us for 10 years, but I think it's amazing. It's amazing.
That's a good quote. How did you put up with all of us for 10 years?
The last thing. This is a document produced for 19,000 people of the grassroots in Colombia. It says, from violence to a society of the rights, so that's a right society, something like that. And it is proposals from the civil society for the next 20 years. For the next 20 years. It's a great effort that the people make for peace. Their desires of peace are here in subjects like, for example, promotion of a culture of human rights and peace. Remember that one of our points in 1910 for the evaluation was this, exactly this, the promotion for human rights and peace. See, and there is another subject, and they talk about articulation between nation and territories. How to make connections. What is happening in the towns? What is happening in the departments? What is happening in the whole country? The necessity of adjustments with the state. How the understanding between the society, between the people and the government, and a lot of other things. And it's talking about the necessity of women participating in it, children and teenagers, the indigenous people, also the the diversity people, because Colombia is getting into the necessity to accept the diversity as something natural. So in that way also, the churches are beginning to think that homosexuality or that kind of thing is not strange. That doesn't have to be strange to the society. We are all human beings, and as a human beings, if we believe in Jesus Christ, we are children of God too. For example, that's too close.
Thank you, Herman. We'll let that be the last word. That's a great one. Well, thank you, everybody. And why don't I close us with a time of prayer, and we'll include those who are on our live stream with us in our time of prayer, and we'll look forward to the gala in 2 hours to celebrate Ann and Tom and all of their work among us, which has not only been in Colombia, but has been in many other places and has been an inspiration to all of our lives. So looking forward to a night of lots of celebrating tonight. So someone was asking Herman, Dave Giffords is texting me. What's the title? Dave, we'll get it put out in the notes. And if we can access that online, is there an online?
I think so.
Okay, well, let me take a picture of it and then we can look for it. So Dave, we will get that. I see you were asking me that question. Okay, let's, why don't we have a time of prayer with each other? Oh, Lord our God, we know you by so many different names, but most of all, we know you as our friend, as the one who walks down a road with us. And that is the way that we have known you these last 10 years in our time of accompaniment as our friend. It's the one who walks down the road with us as the face and as the voice, as the hand of someone else whom we have encountered, who has changed our life, who we have had the privilege of walking beside. It is in that spirit, oh God, that we ask you to send us into our next 10 years together, to send us down a road where we make our way by walking, where we make our way by service, where we make our way by attentiveness to the spirit that you put inside of each of us and deep attentiveness to the way of Jesus. We pray, oh God, today for our two countries, for the United States and for Colombia, both of which are beloved places to us, places where we find our song, where we find our home, and also places that deeply wound and hurt and break our hearts. We ask, oh God, that you would continue to help us to be peacemakers and transformers of the places where we live and the places that we love. Give us your spirit, fill us with your life. Be with us this evening in our celebrations, especially tonight. We give you thanks for Ann and Tom, for their lives and for all that they have taught us, for the role that they've played in each of our lives, for their transforming power in so many different places. We give thanks. We give thanks for this place of Stony Point, place of refuge and care, where we can come and have our souls filled back up again so that we can go out and be your hands and your feet, your people on this earth. And we give you thanks for our sister and our brother Yasmin and Herman, who have traveled from a long way to be with us today. Give thanks for Yasmin's last month in the United States, serving as an international peacemaker with our denomination. We pray for Yasmin as she returns home tomorrow to her family and her community in Colombia. Give you thanks for all that you have done in Yasmin's life, and will continue to do in her service to the Oroba Presbytery. And we give you thanks for our brother Herman, who has tolerated us for the last 10 years and who has served as our local dad and our local brother when we are in Colombia. And we give you thanks for Herman and for his life, for his family, and ask that you would bless his next few days among us. We pray all these things in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord, our Savior, most especially our friend. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
I have a van and can take.
Goodbye,
anybody who wants to ride back
everybody.
over now. And I'd be willing to